We'll now finish Lecture 10 by looking at some solutions to all these often quite heavy and worrying responsibilities. You may have been surprised by the depth of emotion and need and humanity involved in citizen science. You may wish to avoid this area, or you may, like me, decide that it is by far the most interesting. Many projects will need a community manager, and each one's task will be different. There are two types of solutions, technical and human. Your project will probably include some of each. We'll look at them one by one. An important necessity in citizen science is acknowledgement, to thank volunteers for their work. When you sign up to Galaxy Zoo, it asks you what name you would like to be known by in an automatically generated authorship list. It's possible to program in small platforms for people to help each other out right in the interface. They can leave their own comments, which will be seen later, or the chat may be live, as is the case with FoldIt Home. You can show people how everyone else has classified their movie or protein or galaxy too. In some cases, such as Galaxy Zoo, where the point is not to find a correct answer, this can decrease the quality of results by encouraging everyone to conform to some average. In other cases, such as Eyes on Owls, where the object is to find a specific phenomenon, it is useful training. You may wish to add your project to SciStarter, an online smartphone platform for citizen science projects, on which any volunteer and any researcher can create an account. SciStarter gives all its volunteers points, like in a game, a scoring system. SciStarter allows you to send an automatic thank you message to your volunteers as soon as they sign up. There are tools that allow people to create a generic SciStarter account rather than sign up individually to several citizen science projects, which takes time and energy. They've developed a piece of code called an API, which gives everybody a total score so that if a volunteer works on more than one project, they can see a cumulative credit for all of them. The code was first shown to 10 projects on SciStarter with a lot of help and communication and adjustments made to accommodate people's needs. It allows a project to document each volunteer's activity, which gives clues about when they're happy or unhappy, or providing good data or not doing so. It also allows alerts to volunteers when something interesting is happening around them. This is automatic, but still a directed, so somewhat personal invitation. There are important considerations to take into account here, such as privacy. Volunteers opt into or out of being sent occasional emails. You can also track your users to see what projects besides yours that people take part in. Some people like to mix quite different disciplines. And you can see what activity has taken place on your project, what type, and exactly what type of activity it was at a given time. And as you see, the actual person doing it will be listed as anonymous, unless they've chosen otherwise. This has apparently generated some really interesting data. So you may choose to focus on technical ways of connecting with, learning about, and rewarding your volunteers, or you may choose to communicate directly with them, online or face-to-face. I'm somewhat jokingly calling these human methods, because what I mean by them is that a person spends time creating content or responding to people and events when it's needed. The rest of this lecture will be more storytelling, my tips for online engagement. You may wish to consider the advantages and disadvantages of technical versus human methods. If you run an online forum, set the tone. The tone, the way people talk to each other, is very quickly picked up. For example, on Twitter, swearing is acceptable, but elsewhere it is often not. You might find you display a somewhat different personality on different social media platforms because of their overall tone. If someone new arrives to see that arguments are taking place everywhere, they will probably start out quite competitive and defensive. However, if everyone around them says, "Welcome to Zoo," this may be a very pleasant surprise. Galaxy Zoo volunteers really valued the polite tone of the forum and wanted to preserve it. We saw at the start that it is wise to expect the unexpected. Your volunteers may tell you that they need some new tool or discussion area. It's good to discuss these publicly and openly where possible. Bear in mind that just because one volunteer thinks something, this doesn't mean everyone will. It's important to make space for several people to put forward their ideas, encourage respectful discussion, and to make it clear that you're listening to everybody, not just your friend, not just the most aggressive, shouty person. Remember, you can't please everyone. If you can't give someone what they want, but they know you care, they will usually be supportive. Volunteers enjoy teaching and learning. They are often very good tutorial writers. Because they don't speak academic language, they can often write clearly and empathetically for each other, anticipate each other's questions, and create very useful resources. I have often been very moved to see how much trouble someone has taken to understand and help a project and other volunteers. It's very effective to invite volunteers to write tutorials, blogs, and newsletters. Everybody wants to be the author of one of these, and it's a great way to showcase your project's progress. It might even save you time. One more Galaxy Zoo story for you, the story of Object of the Day. This is similar to Astronomy Picture of the Day, a website which shows a beautiful astronomical image every day with a short caption. Every day on Galaxy Zoo, the researchers would post a galaxy at the top of the forum and say something about it and who had found it. Volunteers frequently said they visited daily to see what today's object of the day would be. They all wanted it to be a galaxy that they had found. However, naturally, the researchers soon ran out of time and energy for this and handed it over to me. Then other volunteers wanted to write the posts too, so we created a rota. This encouraged fact-checking, showcasing, public thanks, and science teaching. It was hard work, but it was very well worth it. My main task was to ensure that everybody was happy, and this involved removing unsuitable posts. We couldn't have swearing, for example, which may sound a bit excessive in this day and age, but it did help us avoid being blacklisted by school filters, and it ended up creating a more respectful atmosphere, which almost everyone valued. It's useful to consider what is and is not acceptable behaviour. Some forums remove posts which are pointless, for example, just contain smileys. But these are not a problem. On the other hand, if someone says something that hints at some subject like sex or drugs which got us blocked from school filters, then someone else will come and ask, "What do you mean?" Or if people insulted each other, then public arguments might start and valued volunteers might leave the project. I found it is best to sometimes remove posts, but to contact the author in private to avoid public arguing and pile on, and explain the reasons. You can remind them of rules and often say, "I know you meant well, so consider yourself unlucky, not in trouble." As moderators, if we know someone well, or if they have a high status, it's easy to ignore bad behaviour from them and say, "Oh, I know what they meant," or "Oh, it's too much trouble to criticise them." But this is a dangerous trap. Moderators and their friends set an example to everybody else. We are more responsible than everyone else, not less. Never give someone what they want because they become aggressive. This will only encourage them and others to be aggressive again. Earlier, we heard about volunteers who may be vulnerable or have a lot of problems. You might have been alarmed and wonder how to care for them. The answer is easier than you think. You don't have to do anything special for them, just provide a relaxed environment. This can be done with an area dedicated to jokes, games, and off-topic chat. This may sound pointless, but it's very important. Science is a human activity, and we need to be humans and take a break. Friendships, as well as careers, begin in citizen science. A community which can relax and chat is a supportive community. Your volunteers will naturally provide emotional support for each other. People don't come to projects expecting solutions. At most, they want a listening ear or a place to express themselves. Excuse me. If you can, bring in a volunteer who's worked with people before, such as in a school or hospital. This will be true of several of your volunteers. You do need community standards. Jokes and games should never escalate to harassment or discrimination. If you have time, join in the silly chat sometimes. This is not unprofessional. People need to know that scientists are ordinary people who like to have fun. Finally, I myself have made many, many mistakes running a forum. I've got angry when I shouldn't, I've panicked, I've deleted posts when I shouldn't, or criticised people unfairly, and I've missed important events. But people usually forgave me because they realised how much effort I was putting in and that I was willing to listen to everyone and to apologise. 13 years later, I'm still friends with people I unfairly banned. That's the end of my lecture, which I hope has given you some interesting insights into citizen science communities and ideas about how you might like to run one. You may decide this area is not for you, but I hope some of you will decide, as I did, that it is very interesting because you need your volunteers. We'll finish with some tweets by a citizen science project called Mark Tukir. I'd like you to notice two important themes here. First of all, no matter what you prepare, someone else will have some more ideas to improve it. And secondly, talk to people. Citizen science is friendly. You will get support. Please feel free to email me at the address at the bottom of this slide. And thank you all very much.